Okay, I'd like to welcome everybody to the meeting coming out on a dreary, rainy night. We appreciate that. And I've gotten some feedback that sometimes it's difficult to hear us with the masks on during the meeting, whether it's on, you're watching at home on YouTube or you're here at the meeting itself. So I'm going to have my mask off whenever I speak, and I think we're social distance enough that it'll be fine. But again, thanks everybody for coming. We'll start with introductions. Dr. Gilman.
Randy Gilman, Assistant Superintendent, Elementary.
Tammy Cardona, Assistant Superintendent, Secondary.
Jim Shalhoub, Director.
Crystal Hargis, Director.
Bob Grunwald, Director.
Jamie Willis, Board Secretary.
Jacqueline Fitzpatrick, Executive Director of Curriculum and Instruction.
Kelly Brock, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources.
Carol Yount, Board Director.
Michelle Chamberlain, Board Member.
Judy Smith, Vice President to the Board.
Nisha Patel, Superintendent.
And I'm Vicki Hansen, Board President. Okay, the first item of the agenda is 1.3, approval of meeting minutes from September 15th
Vicki,
and October
point of order,
6th.
do we need to do the Pledge of Allegiance?
We already did that, Jim.
Yeah, we did, just now.
We did the Pledge of Allegiance. Didn't we do the pledge?
We did.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so the first item is 1.3 of approval. That's okay, I went to appointment, it's not till November 3rd at 3 today, so. Approval of meeting minutes from September 15th and October 6th. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, the next item on the agenda is the approval of today's agenda. I need a motion, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, and that's another comment I'd like to make. When we do have motions, if everybody could speak so people know whether you're approving or not. Next item is patron comments. Dr. Gilman.
No comments this evening.
2.2, superintendent comments.
I will, I'll be giving a superintendent update on COVID-related matters in a little bit, but I do want to take this opportunity to actually celebrate and congratulate someone who's in the audience today. So Gary Cross, our Director of Transportation, if you don't mind, could you come up here in to the podium? So we'll give you... So ladies and gentlemen, this is Gary Cross. He is our Director of Transportation. He took on this position, actually, this is his first year. Gary's been with us for several years, started off with as a bus driver, but today we are going to present him with an award from DESE. That DESE usually gives out this award to basically school districts who, you know, every year we have the Missouri State Highway Patrol come and they do an inspection on all of our buses. Well, if you pass like 90% or more of your buses pass the inspection, they get an award from DESE. So this year, Fox School District is going to be getting the Exemplary School Bus Maintenance Award. And the interesting part of that is 133 out of 136 buses passed this for us. That's like a 98% pass rating. And they come and do a thorough inspection. They check the emergency exits, the exhaust, the brakes, the lights, and of course all this information I talked to Gary about. And I'm like, Gary, what do they exactly do? So he informed me, but I wanted to congratulate you. Because of COVID, I'm not going to hand this specifically to you. We will get it delivered, but congratulations to you, Gary. You have done a phenomenal job, and our bus drivers, they work so hard for our kids. So we really appreciate your leadership. And is there anything you would like to say? You've got the mic.
I'd just like to really thank our drivers. It was a tough year for the inspection. It kept getting moved back, and it got moved back to when they weren't even on duty. We had several that came up, volunteered their time to come up and work through the inspections. They worked amazingly long hours, and of course K&K, who always is most of the reason we pass so well. I mean, K&K does an outstanding job for us, so I just want to thank all of them too.
And thank you, Gary.
Thank you guys.
That's all I've got.
All right. The next item is board member cabinet reports. Dr. Gilman.
So I'm going to be part of the Dr. Patel's presentation here in a minute, so I'll hold most of that. I do want to thank our staff for their efforts and our parents for their patience as we transition K2 back to more days of in-person learning. And I just want to just give Gary a little bit of props. Like, I've worked with him for the last 6 years. This is his first year in this role, but he is such a problem solver. And when things are tight and when routes are tight and when we have situations that come up, I just absolutely appreciate the way he approaches those problems and his mindset around that. So thanks, Gary.
Dr. Cardona?
So this must be Gary Cross night, and none of us talk about what we're going to talk about, but I actually was going to thank our bus drivers, Gary. We brought all of our students back in for PSAT testing on Wednesdays, and I called Gary and said, okay, I don't know how many kids are going to take advantage of transportation, but can we run all the buses to the bus stops to get these kids in? And he figured out the plan. He got the drivers in on a Wednesday and made that happen for our kids. So thank you, Gary, and please let your bus drivers know how much we appreciate them. We are planning on our ACT makeups. We had ACT testing for our seniors because they missed that last year, so we did get that in, but we did miss some seniors, so we are working on getting those makeup days set up. I would also like to thank our nurses. We actually met with a few of our leaders in the nursing group, and they're working incredibly hard to do a lot of extra things this year for our kiddos, for our teachers, and for each one of our buildings. So I want to give a big shout out and thank you to them. First quarter ends Friday, and then we will follow up with that with parent-teacher conferences that are on November the 12th. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Mr. Shalhoub?
I just want to thank our teachers and our parents for hanging in there. This has been really, really a challenge, let me tell you something. And we're asking people, we have teachers that are working day and night now to provide both in-class and virtual. And we have parents that are working day and night now to get all the curriculum in. And everybody's been pretty darn positive about it. It's been a real challenge, but I really appreciate the fact that for the most part, it feels like they're all hanging in there, and I may be speaking for myself because I'm kind of one of those parents that's doing it too. And actually, we're getting pretty good at it, believe it or not. And so there may be some value to this that we never even dreamed existed, but appreciate your efforts.
Ms. Hargis?
No comments.
Mr. Grunwald?
I'd just like to briefly congratulate the Transportation Department and Gary. That was the department that I had the privilege and headache to manage over 17 years when I was in the central office, but it was always a great department. We had great drivers, great leadership, and it sounds like we're still in that mode, so I'm glad to hear that.
Okay, Mr. Fitzpatrick?
I have no report.
No report.
Ms.
Well,
Young?
I'm probably going to say the same thing that everybody else has said this whole year. Thanks to our staff. And Gary, congratulations, and thank you to the Transportation Department. Sometimes we forget about people that their changes have to be done every day. We pay attention to our students, we pay attention to our teachers, but then sometimes we forget our aides and our transportation and nurses, and this has been a real challenge for everybody in this district and everybody in this community. And I appreciate the time that Dr. Cardona and Dr. Gilman and Dr. Patel has given to the thoughts about our kids and deciding what they feel is best. And we're going to move forward, and we're going to have a good year. By the time this year ends, we're going to look back and think, wow, what we really did it. So thank you so much.
No comment.
I just got off the phone with a mom, and she's the mom of a freshman, and she was in tears, and she about brought me to tears. And I just want to thank the parents for being as patient as they've been. We do get a lot of emails, people begging us to bring the kids back to school. And I know Dr. Patel and Dr. Gilman and Dr. Cardona are working really, really hard. And I know that sometimes the parents just need to say what they need to say. Like sometimes I say what I need to say. And Dr. Patel is always good to just listen. But I know the teachers are working really, really, really hard.
And sometimes, you know, parents just need to get it off their chest, because I know if I had had to homeschool my own children, I might be in jail today. And I know that it's really, really hard to come home from work and try to get schoolwork done. And I just want the parents to know that we want the kids back in school, and that we're going to do everything we can. Dr. Patel is going to do everything she can, and I am hoping that November 5th, I don't care if it's purple, we just need to bring the kids back, the county. You know, it's not, if we're going to let them come in, and if it turns red, we're going to stay in because transmissions aren't coming from school. I think we just need to say we're going to bring them back on a date and bring them back on that date. And I know that's easy for me to say, but I just think we need to have a plan and stick to it. And on November 5th, for those K1 and 2 students to be able to come. And I think if we do that, that'll make the whole plan move a little faster. And I just really want to thank the parents and the teachers for working so hard. The other day, Dr. Patel sent us an article, and it was a really good article on grace and empathy. And it said in the article that empathy can be time. And so there was a little bit of confusion about teachers going out to lunch on Wednesdays or the days the students weren't there. And I just want the teachers to know that we don't begrudge you stepping out of school for a few minutes to pick up lunch, to step out of school and have lunch. I just think that time, that little bit of time that you can step out and take a breath and regroup and come back and face it again, because I know the teachers are working day and night to keep this together and help the students be successful. So empathy can be time, and if that's what it takes, I know nobody's abusing that, and I just want them to know that I don't have a problem with that, and I don't think that there are any other board members that really do either. And the article was really good, and so just that little bit of time could be helpful to pull yourself together. And that's all.
Okay, I'll make one real quick comment. I am really looking forward to the update on the phase-in plan too. Also, we've had a lot of discussion about achievement recently, and I know I asked Dr. Patel, I wasn't as up to date as I should have been probably, but found out that DESE is planning on giving the map this year. Is that still correct?
As of right now, yes.
Yeah. So what I wanted to do is just reassure the staff, all the achievement, whatever testing, whether it's our own testing or the state testing, we all understand that this has been a unique year. And last year we missed one whole quarter. So the way I am considering it is a baseline year. It's a startup of where we're going to start, and then from there on out. We know that you're doing your best, and we're going to work hard to bring our kids as far as we can, but it's not the same as if we were having a normal school year. So I just, if staff are having any kind of anxiety about that, you know, whatever happens with that, you prepare the kids, you teach them like you always do, the best, very best you can, and we take that information and use it to try to make things better the next year. So, Dr. Patel, the floor is yours.
Okay. Superintendent update, I believe, is the next topic, so I will get right into it. You know, we always start off with some data, so I'm not, Jefferson County Health Department sent me some screenshots, et cetera. I didn't include them on this. I just gave a recap, basically, of it. So the latest data, according to Jefferson County Health Department, that's for the week 42, which is October 11th through the 17th. The positivity rate is 12.3%. The prior weeks was 9.3, so we did go up just slightly as a community. 0 to 19 age group, there were 42 new cases the prior week, or 42 cases this week. The prior week there were 34. So just as a reminder, we look at the Jefferson County Health Department data, we drill it down to zip code, and then we also look at our own district data. So this is on our website. It does look different. I think it looks much cleaner and nicer, so thank you, JP, for doing that for us. If you look at it, this data is refreshed now every 15 minutes. So if you look at it, currently in our Fox School District, we have 9 students that have positive cases, and then we have 3 staff members that are positive. We have 123 students currently in our district that are quarantined, and we have 16 staff members that are quarantined. If you scroll down, it gives you more information if anyone's ever interested. You can always go there, and it tells you by building. Since the start of school, we have had 54 students that have tested positive and 477 students that were in quarantine. And since the start of school, we've had 28 staff members test positive and 83 that were released from quarantine. And that's just good information for us to have. And again, it's building specific and it's our own data. When I have weekly meetings with the superintendents and when we talk about this, one thing is pretty clear, and I think it's very important for everybody to know. The transmission is not, as of right now, the transmission is not happening in the schools. That is a very, very good thing. That means the mitigating factors that we have put in place are working. And it doesn't matter if the school district is in hybrid like we are, or if the school districts happens to be 5 days in. The data that we can compare with school districts that have the kids in full-time, all day long, 5 days a week, have data like this. So it's not like those districts have so many more positives. Now, of course, they're gonna have more positives and more quarantines because there's more kids, but it's not exponential. So the things that they're doing in the school districts are working. So that's some of the data that we're looking at, and I just wanted to give you a recap. So that brings us back to phasing back kids. So I wanted to talk through briefly some of the things that we have to consider when we're talking about bringing kids back. We all know we want our kids back. We've said that from day one, and we want them to be in person more. We are having more kids that have D's and F's right now than we have had prior. And that is a result of not being in person and not having your teacher right there in front of you for synchronous learning. So we know that was our goal. The thing we have to keep in mind, and I know that it's hard, but we do have to, especially when I have to make some of the decisions, is the different perspectives, right? We have the freshman mom who's struggling, and I get that. We have the parents who can't keep their kids at home because both of them are working. We've got staff members that are working tirelessly doing hybrid in person, then planning for the kids that are home for 3 days that are hybrid, and some also planning for the fully virtual kids. We have asked a lot from our staff. Then we have to think of, administrators and their viewpoints. We have to think of our bus drivers, our kitchen staff. They have to prep meals. They have to order food a month in advance. So there's tons of different perspectives. So I don't know how many times I could say that in different ways, but any decision we make, we know that it's not gonna be easy, and we know that it's not gonna be the ideal for every single person, but we're gonna try and make the decision, as always, what's best for kids, and we're gonna do it on what works for the majority of the people. We want to make sure that we avoid having, I put avoid fewer in-person days. That's not true. There's a typo there. What I want to remind everybody is we started K through 12 in hybrid, and we never have gone virtual yet, fully virtual. And I think that's something to celebrate too. And I said that last time, and I want to reiterate that. We have been in person since the start of school. Many districts, they've had to shut down maybe some buildings, or they never even started, but we did start, so that's something good. Data, we always continue to look at data. Another thing that comes up, and a lot of people email me about this, is why are we not in school more? Look at all the other county schools. And they have been referring more and more to the St. Louis County schools that are coming back quicker. The kids are coming back. And I have to remind those individuals that, first of all, St. Louis County is different because their positivity rate is about 5%. When they were in the position we are, in our positivity rate, they were fully virtual. We managed to even have in-person days, even when we were in red. So I think that's a good thing, and I get that they're saying, well, we're falling behind. We're not really, because we've been in school the entire time when they were virtual. And then Jefferson County schools, yes, more and more schools are looking at coming back for more days. Again, I have weekly meetings with these individuals. I know Festus has always been 5 days. I know Windsor's thinking of coming back for more days as well. But these are all still conversations that are happening. So we'll continue to look at that. Another topic that came up is virtual students. I'm hearing this a lot from a lot of people that email me. Why did we let the virtual students in K through 2 specifically give an opportunity to come back in school? We told them they have a 1 semester commitment. Why don't you just keep them there? What I struggle with is we know it's best for kids to be in school. So why would we not offer that opportunity to allow them to come in if they would choose to? We're going to still honor the semester commitment. So in January, those virtual kids can still decide if they want to come back or not. But right now, we're saying we're going to go 4 days, so why not allow that for them? I know it causes a little more angst amongst everything else, but again, it's best for kids. So we opened up the window and we allowed virtual students to come in if they chose to. And I know Dr. Gilman's going to talk about that a little bit as well. So then that's how some of the things I just wanted to touch base and remind everybody, those are some of the things that we think about when we're starting to phase kids back in. So K through 2, our first phase in, here's the latest on that. JP? K through 2. As of right now, we want to bring them back on Thursday, November 5th. And I know I've put that in parentheses so we can have a discussion on that. As long as we're not in red status, on Wednesday, November 4th. Now, that date, some of you may recognize, it says Thursday, November 5th. Originally, I had put on there Monday, November 9th. And I know, again, that's caused some challenges, and I've gotten input from people about that. Like, why are you changing it now to Thursday, November 5th? I go back to 2 things. The first thing is, the reason we had put November 9th originally is because we wanted to give teachers 2 days to prep. We wanted to give teachers 2 days to prep because originally we thought they would be teaching hybrid and virtual together. And so they needed that extra planning time. Now, and Dr. Gilman will talk about it in a little bit, we have been able to fully separate our virtual and hybrid teachers. That is huge for us to be able to do. So in my mind, those 2 days, we can now utilize to bring the kids back earlier for 2 days. And another point, in November, if we didn't bring them back that Thursday and Friday, that group was not going to get teachers as many days because then we have Thanksgiving, Thursday and Friday, so that group would have missed out on those 2 days. And we had parent-teacher conferences and a PD day. So that's why I said, let's see if we can bring them back Thursday, November 5th. We've talked to our building principals. We had a meeting this morning. They all felt we were ready to do this, not unanimous, but the majority of them. I believe 9 out of the 11 buildings were ready to do this. So the date for right now is Thursday, November 5th. We got feedback. We know when we did the commitment form, we got feedback from our virtual families. One of the things that they were struggling with is if we had had staff that taught both, the number of days that they would get live instruction was going to be reduced. And they were worried about that, and we were too. So we wanted to make sure that that level did not reduce, so we looked at the staffing. And then we got feedback from K through 2 teachers as well that's saying it's a lot for us to do both. It is a lot, and we get that. So because of that, we decided, we got all the data, and then this is how, Dr. Gilmore, if you want to take it from here, this is how we decided on the staffing piece for K through 2.
Sure, absolutely. So I want to start real quick by just saying how impressed I am with our teachers, our administrators, our secretaries. They have really been through the ringer this year, and they keep asking Dr. Patel and I, when are we going to be able to get kids back in front of us, and when are we going to be able to get kids back in full time? And so I really appreciate that mindset and that attitude. And it's really amazing since they have been through so much, and it has been really difficult. So as Dr. Patel stated, we recently kind of opened up the option for K2 virtual students to come back, and about 200 of those chose to do so, which is a significant number. JP, if you want to click on that staffing data for us, you can just kind of scroll through the bottom. As you can see here, there's been quite a bit of work. This is the immense amount of work that our buildings have gathered here. So when we throw out that survey, then they have to go down, they have to collect it all. So every teacher and student is accounted for here, either in the hybrid in-person section or virtual section, and the columns B, C, and D are what we had prior, and then F and G represent the new numbers, basically. And so we've taken that, and the green highlighted ones, obviously, those teachers are the 100% virtual teachers. And we kind of started with that to create the new Virtual Academy plan. And JP, if you want to kind of click back and then click over on, see all those tabs on the bottom? I always get teased. My principals tease me because I always have too many tabs open. So we have a tab there, obviously, for every building. I have tabs usually on the bottom, and I have tabs on the top, and they always make fun of me for that, which I appreciate. And they're not wrong. I do have too many tabs open. So that green group, the virtual teacher group, is the group we started with to create our virtual academy, which is now separate from our in-person learning. The only crossover that we'll have probably is some title crossover, maybe some special education crossover potentially, but for our classroom teachers, we have fully separated this out. And then, JP, if you want to go to that other document, the virtual pairings there, this is the academy plan. And we've taken teacher names out of here, but they're just represented by teacher 1, teacher 2, teacher 3. So that top part is kindergarten. So the Fox Elementary is kind of the host teacher there, and it shows how many students they have, which is 7, and then they're going to be sharing some virtual students with Clyde Hamrick Elementary and Merrimack Heights. The class totals, I think the average is when you go down between kindergarten, first and second grade, the class totals there are about 18 per, and then over to the right, with that virtual teacher gone, you see what kind of the average section is that's left. So if you look at second grade there, teacher 1, Guffey, if you go all the way over, they would have 20, I can't read that far, 21 students left, and that would be their average number. So one of the reasons that we started with the virtual teachers is because since they were 100% virtual, they weren't really included in in-person learning at that grade level anyway. It also helps Luke with core data, so that was kind of a move that we were able to make. These numbers, the 200 kids coming back, really actually made this possible. You know, when we first started this, virtual academy idea, we did not anticipate how many kids were going to go virtual, and it kind of messed with our plan a little bit. But this is kind of where we ended up. And just to kind of reiterate the pros of this, it separates in-person and virtual learning. No classroom teachers will be teaching separate grade levels simultaneously. We will not short our virtual students, which Dr. Patel mentioned, which is really important to us. Staff assigned already to virtual have experience in that world, which is nice. Also helps with the core data situation that I just mentioned. It keeps our staff with medical concerns in a good place, and it really is minimal shifting for staff and 0 building moves for staff. So that's kind of where we ended up.
And I think it was important for Dr. Gilman to show you the staffing data piece, just to see the amount of detail and work that it takes to, make this plan work. And I do want to publicly thank you, Dr. Gilman. I know that was a lot of work and a lot of thought and meetings and conversations with everybody, so I appreciate all that.
Certainly, I could not have done it without the buildings. They put a ton of effort into that.
So, I know a lot of people say, why is it taking so long? Why is it taking so long? A lot of this we couldn't have even done till we have the true information from the virtual families and even the people that are in hybrid right now. Some did go to virtual because they weren't comfortable with the class sizes, and we always want to honor that. So till we have all that information, we can't begin to plan the level we needed to. So we have that, again, target date Thursday, November 5th. Now, the red status.
I have a question real quick. So 200 students are coming back in, and students from one building virtually are going to be taught by a teacher in another building. How does that affect moving kids around in Tyler? Are the secretaries going to have to move those students in Tyler, or is tech moving those students? Is there enough time to do that?
There is enough time to do that. We actually met with Luke about all of that, and I know he's working on a plan to communicate that out and who's going to do it and how it's going to be done.
Are the secretaries going to be responsible for that?
Luke, what do you think would be the best way right now?
Okay.
So I know the red status, I know that is on there, right? As long as we're not in red. We've said if we're not in the red status, we're not going to increase the class sizes right away that week. I didn't know if the board, if you had input, questions, concerns about that piece, because I know we have different perspectives on it.
I think we
Back to
should,
school.
I'm just going to go ahead and speak my opinion. I think that we need to stick to the plan that if we're in red, we don't bring them back. I think that's an important piece. That's what we've committed to. I guess if I wanted to make sure I understood Randy correctly on the numbers, are you saying that in the classrooms, because of those averages, none of the classrooms where the kids are in person are going to be over? We don't need additional staff?
That's correct. We actually had 2 grade levels that went over. One, our 2 classroom grade levels. So one was at Guffey and the other one was at Londell. But because of the way the virtual kids shifted, Londell freed up a teacher that could bring those class sizes down. And Guffey was able to get their in-person kids to a certain level where those Guffey virtual kids were able to go down to Antonia Elementary, and that freed up that teacher to come in and bring those class sizes down.
Sorry, I turned off my microphone. I had a question about the Chromebooks. Do we have enough Chromebooks for the kids at school and the ones that are doing all virtual with this change?
That is something that is going to be a challenge. We're working to try and figure that out, but I know we've ordered some, but even if we wanted to get them today, we can't because they're so back ordered. But they are on order and we're going to be getting them. But when we'll get them we don't know.
And so if the students are in 4 days, they'll be, the teachers can use some virtual learning in person, but they can also do their more traditional approaches as well. So
Right.
that should be solvable, correct? Okay.
I just want to say, I don't want to be rude, but all of these schools in the county that have been 5 days in, they've been 5 days in, and they haven't had to shut down. And even if the county is in red, we've had no transmissions through the school. Parents want the kids back in, and I think it shows the mitigation is working. And if these other schools in the district can have kids in school 5 days a week, I think we need to bring ours back, because if it ends up being red, it's going to be another 2 weeks before they can come back. And that throws, that's 4 days. That's 4 extra days. And so, I just feel like if it's red, and we just be careful and get the kids back in like the other schools are doing, and cases aren't going up within the schools.
I would agree with that, that we need to get these kids back in, and whether it's red, orange, yellow, purple, whatever, we need to have these kids in. One question I have is, I understand the K through 2 and how the teachers were split with virtual and in person, but when we're talking about secondary, there's like every kid has an hour, right? Even the virtual kids, right? They have an hour. So, and the hybrid kids have an hour. So what is going to take so long with getting the high school, the secondary kids back in, the planning stage?
So I have a slide coming up for that.
Oh,
Do
a
you mind
slide,
if I
okay,
talk about
okay.
that later?
Okay.
Okay.
Could we?
Well, I'm really looking forward to that one.
If we could just get through the K through 2 first. Go. Does anybody else have any more questions for the K through 2?
I believe getting the kids back is crucial. They need the structure and the motivation that comes from being in school, and I think if we've discovered anything, we discovered that's really the important element for having kids be successful. But the most important thing is that we get them back and we're able to implement the mitigation strategies that we've been able to implement. And I guess my biggest concern is, are we going to be packing 25 kids into a classroom? Because if we do that, we're not going to be doing the mitigation strategies that we need to be doing. And so we need to figure out a way that we don't do that. The reason what we've been doing, the hybrid's been successful because we've been able to spread the kids out. Now we're going to have twice as many kids in the building. And if you've been in a building that's got half the kids in it, and you've been in a building with all the kids in it, it's a very different environment in both of those situations relative to how close the kids. So do we have strategies in place to make sure that we keep our kids socially distanced? They're not sharing air, everybody's wearing masks, and we're doing correct disinfecting and we're ventilating the buildings appropriately, because if we don't do that, we're not going to have success. I can tell you that. We're going to find ourselves maybe in a situation where we end up having to go all virtual, and that would be very bad, I think.
Dr. Gilman?
So I'll speak to that for just a second. We have visited with some of the other county schools. Festus, for example, is one school that I talked to. They have 950 kiddos in their K2 school, like they have a K2 school, and they are using the similar mitigation strategies that we're using, but social distancing is not going to be 100% possible with the kids coming back in. And they're having about the same success that we are. So it's pretty well controlled. There doesn't seem to be a lot of transmission among the kids in the building, even though they don't have that particular mitigation going as far as the social distancing. I do still think that we can maybe be like 3 feet. We're still going to do all of the other things: hand washing in and out, sanitizing, extra cleaning, mask wearing seems to be a really big one. But they're having a similar success that we are, and they are all in 5 days a week, K2. They do have a virtual option, but their class sizes are similar to what we're going to have all in.
Have we thought about using, I know some people are buying these filters that you can actually, or freestanding filters that can go into a classroom that recirculate the air and filter the air. Have we thought about doing that, purchasing some of those in those larger class size where we can't ventilate properly?
We can research that.
Because I think some teachers actually have purchased those on their own, to be honest with you, to filter the air in their room, and that's a critical factor.
Right.
And so we need to be trying to do everything we can, because frankly, it's about our kids, but it's also about our teachers. When we ask our employees to work in a situation that puts them at risk, that's asking an awful lot. And it's just something that we really, really need to do everything that we can possibly do to keep people as safe as we possibly can and get our kids back to school, because I believe they need that for sure.
Dr. Gilman, did you have more information to present?
Nope, that's all I had.
Okay. Any other questions? All right.
Okay, so the next phase I know everybody's waiting to hear is 3 through 5. So once we get our kiddos in on the 5th, our goal, remember, was by the end of November at the latest to bring 3 through 5 back. So based on the November 5th date, we had to plan out accordingly. And our goal now is for 3 through 5 to be back on November 23rd, and that is the Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving week. So instead of waiting till the week after, we figured if we can bring them in on Monday and Tuesday for 2 weeks, get them situated, get them accustomed to what this is going to be like, then they can go on Thanksgiving break and come back the following Monday for a full week. Communication plan is to go out next week so we can get commitment again from those families, whether they want to, the virtual families, whether they want to come in, and the in-person kiddos if they want to go virtual, because they may not be comfortable with the fact that we cannot guarantee social distancing. You have more kids in the classroom, they will not be able to do the 6 feet automatically. And then we'll give them 1 week, same way we did K through 2. We'll give them 1 week to let us know what they've decided. And then based on that, Dr. Gilman will work with the principals and the teachers again to figure out class sizes, rearrange what we need to, balance it out. And again, we'll try our best to separate. So try to have fully virtual teachers and fully in-person teachers. That will be more of a challenge when it comes to 3 through 5. But we will work through it. We won't know till we actually have the information. And then again, we will continue to honor the semester-long commitment. So in January, once again, we'll go through this process again. So that's the plan for 3 through 5. Again, the question comes up, as long as we're not in the red status. And that's something, that we're going to continue to monitor. And I know some of the board feels like we don't need to look at the red, and some feel like we do need to look at the red. So any questions or guidance on that one? No? Okay.
I think uppermost in all of our minds is the safety of our kids and staff. So are there any other safety precautions besides the mask and the cleaning? Is there anything else that we as employees or district can do to make sure that our kids are protected? I know they clean playgrounds.
I feel like we're doing everything that we can. You know, we talk to the other schools even that are doing the 5 days in person, and we're like, okay, is there anything different that you're doing? I know Dr. Gilman talks to those principals to get ideas. I know at the high school, one of the ideas for the lunchroom, right, was the QR codes that they scan. So we're trying to implement everything that we can think of.
So the health department has not made any other suggestions for us when we send our kids back?
Nothing that we have not already done. Let's put it that way.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Dr. Patel, I just one other question relative to lunch. I guess it's got me more concerned than anything else. Are we going to have half the kids eat lunch in their classroom and the other half in the cafeteria?
So Dr.
Because if something happens at lunch, it's different than any other time, and that's the time the kids don't have masks on.
Right, and so we're gonna try our best to keep them in the cohorts. So whatever cohorts that they were sitting with, like if Ms. Hanson and I were sitting together, we'll try to make sure in the lunchroom they're also sitting together, because the key will be the contact tracing. If there was a positive case in the lunchroom, who were you with for more than 15 minutes, less than 6 feet away from you? Dr. Gilman, did you talk to the principals about the lunch?
Yes, lunch is one of those areas that's going to be difficult. They've kind of stretched out their lunch schedules as much as possible, but there's a finite amount of time to do that. And so, you know, in some of these cafeteria sizes and some of the class sizes, that is an area that's going to be difficult. And like Dr. Patel said, you know, they're going to do good sanitation. I'm going to wash or sanitize hands in and out. They're going to sit in cohort groups or pods. And, you know, they're doing similar things in buildings that are all in, and they're not seeing a huge issue with that so far. So we're hopeful that we'll have the same amount of success.
Okay, and then finally, the last phase, 6 through 12. Secondary. We are seeing our kids at the secondary level struggle just as much as the elementary. And so when do we bring them back? How does that happen? We do not have a specific date outlined yet, and I know that's going to frustrate some people. I know it already. I know we'll get the emails and the phone calls, and that's okay, but I just don't feel that we have a date set that we can actually say this is when we're going to come back. Our goal is to bring them back as soon as we can once we bring kindergarten, like the whole elementary schools back. We know that right now the data shows that's the highest risk group, especially the high school. We want to look at K through 5 and how that's happening, what's happening in our buildings. One of the biggest challenges at the secondary level is that the kids have 7 different classes. So when you are at any point trying to rearrange class sizes or teacher changes, that's a lot of information that you would need to like figure out, including in the tech part and core data wise. So more communication. I know that's not a lot that we're giving you right now, but we're going to continue to talk about this. I know I'm going to talk to the board about it because I actually do have some ideas, but I want to make sure that we have a conversation about it first, about some of the ideas. Once we have that conversation, Dr. Cardona will speak to the building admin and the teachers to get their input on some of those suggestions. But I do want to talk to the board about some of that a little bit later in terms of trying to get our kids back even before semester if possible, because a lot of our kids are struggling, a lot. And that's something that keeps us all up at night.
I have one more question. I know that we got the pacing guides, and I know that they weren't received all that well. And I know that one school's essential standards are not another school's essential standards, even though we ought to have the same essential standards. But so we have schools that are following it, that aren't following it. And so my question is, when you have these virtual kids coming from 3 buildings to 1, and so that one virtual teacher at Londell is going to be teaching maybe 3 different schools. Some schools have been using Treasures, some schools have been using reading workshop, writing workshop. How are the teachers going to give grades, and how is that going to work?
So essentially, like if kids are a cluster of kids, let's say, is going from Hamrick and they're going to be taught by somebody at Fox Elementary. We talked in the principals meeting today, and we were discussing like, okay, should we have the communication go to the principal or assistant principal? And then we decided, no, that's too much. So we're just going to connect teachers. So if my kids are coming to you and you're going to teach them, we're going to have that connection. I'm going to fill you in on, I'm going to let you know where their reading benchmarks are, all of the pertinent information. We think that is that direct communication between teachers. And teachers want to do that. The teachers that we've heard from are like, those are my kids. I really care about their learning. And they're going to basically nurture that transition to make sure that it is done as smoothly as possible. It is a big task, right? Because there are some differences. But we think that's probably the best way to handle it, is to put those teachers that are going to be sharing those kids over in contact with each other. And we feel pretty strongly that they'll do a good job and try to build that continuity for them.
Can you hear me now? Okay. Randy, are you going to try, because you went through the slides pretty quickly, are you going to try to group the students say for instance, Londell and Hamrick kindergarten, Londell, Hamrick kindergarten, or first grade, Londell. So there's consistency between the schools.
I looked at that a little bit, but it wasn't playing well with the numbers. One of our main issues is we wanted to keep those, that for a virtual teacher, we wanted to try to keep that number around 20 or below. And I think we did I don't think we have anybody over 20. So I did look at that some, but more than that, it was basically trying to just make sure that we didn't overload a virtual teacher with, too many kiddos in that class.
Right. Well, I do have concerns because the kindergarten and first grade, I have a first grade full-time virtual academy student. And when you have 20 first graders doing virtual, a Zoom class, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, I definitely wouldn't suggest that. If you had 20, I think I would definitely cluster those into maybe groups of 10 or maybe even smaller. You know what I mean? And do multiple Zooms, especially when you're talking with the younger kiddos anyway. Their Zoom attention is probably not what it would be in an older grade level. So that would some teachers I know that are having success with that are definitely kind of grouping their kids. They can find some similar abilities or some other things that they need to work on as well. And yeah, when you get a Zoom above 10 kiddos, it's hard to manage that anyway.
Okay, so you're recommending to the teachers that they do multiple Zoom classes for grouping?
I would definitely approach it that way. From some that I've heard from that are having a lot of success with that, that's exactly what they're doing. Instead of trying to do a 40-minute Zoom with 20 kids, they'll break that in half and do 20 minutes here and then 20 minutes there. That seems to work better.
So I have a question. We've talked a lot about teachers and students, but if we could speak to the parents now. So if my child was in the virtual academy and now my child has switched to another teacher at another school, if I had questions or if I had concerns, if I can't go to the principal or the assistant principal, that would confuse me and that would worry me that I don't have someplace or somebody I can call.
Yeah, so I think the teacher will be definitely the first point of contact.
Well, absolutely,
right? Yeah.
Always the teacher first.
Yeah, and then I don't think it would matter. Some parents obviously have developed relationships with their home school, and so I don't think the principal at the home school is going to not take care of that situation if they feel more comfortable calling them, or if they have a situation where the teacher is housed in a different school. The principal will, I'm sure that they would be able to talk to them as well, because they would be kind of dealing with that, So the virtual teacher in that building technically would be under that building principal. But either way, I think they could reach out to either administrator if they had an issue.
Because we have gotten emails from parents about the virtual and the concerns with it, and I think you've always told them to reach out to the principal of the building, but I just wanted to make sure that was said.
That's a really good question, because what we're going to try to do is, no matter what teacher the virtual kiddos end up with, we want to keep them anchored to their home school. So if they're having social-emotional needs or anything, the home school counselor will be the person. Their assistant principal and principal will be the person. The teacher may be at another building, but everything else is at their home school, because eventually they're going to come back. So we want to keep that relationship going.
Nisha, you just said everything else is going, so does that mean their gym, music, art, how is that going to be handled for those students?
Yeah, that will be handled in their new environment, most likely. So, and it'll be one of two ways, because a lot of the buildings have specials scheduled into their schedule already.
Mm-hmm.
And so even if they're a virtual teacher, they have, like if it's a Sherwood virtual teacher, they might have a virtual art time scheduled in where the art teacher will Zoom with those kids. If that fits in their schedule still, those virtual kids, even if it's a Fox Elementary kiddo that's in a virtual Sherwood's class, if they have a virtual art time over there, they'll receive art that way.
Okay.
And then the other, the buildings are also, the minimum that we're going to have is the specialist teachers are going to push out a primary and an intermediate lesson per week. So it's kind of asynchronous. That's kind of the minimum, and then there'll be probably more than that on top as the schedule permits.
Okay, and then my next question is, the students are going to have a teacher change now, and I'm talking about a first grader, and then in December, they're going to possibly have another teacher change.
Yes.
So
Possibly.
we're talking about emotional, social needs of a child, but a first grader is going to have 3 different teachers within one semester.
I just had one other thing. There were some emails from some of the teachers who were concerned about not having the extra 2 days to plan. And I think you really addressed that when you said they had the 2 days because you thought they were going to be both virtual and in person. And the issue, I think, in the emails was that on these Wednesdays, they're being assigned meetings, and they're doing more meetings than they're really able to plan. And so we got two different school emails, and they were just, both schools were saying that they were in meetings all day, and that they really weren't able to do any of the planning they needed to do for the week, nor prepare for this. And so I guess what I thought was, maybe these next 2 Wednesdays, meetings could be put to a minimum for those people who think that that they really need that time on Wednesday to get their rooms rearranged or whatever, because that was what they said. Both emails said that they had meetings, so many meetings that they couldn't do what they thought they needed to do on the day that they were supposed to be doing it. So.
Yeah, Judy, when we met with them this morning, that's exactly what we advised, is we said, hey, if we're not going to have the 5th and 6th, why don't those 2 Wednesdays prior to our start, just cut the teachers totally free. You'll need to kind of communicate with parents that teachers are offline, in preparation, because even our in-person teachers are going to have some, some preparation to do for sure to make this happen. So we made that suggestion since the 5th and 6th aren't kind of doable. The 2 Wednesdays prior, not tomorrow, but the next 2 Wednesdays prior, cut them free. Okay. Let them have all the time they need to prepare. 100% of that time devoted to that, devoted to those teachers talking and getting everything set.
Well, that should help.
So basically, the 2 e-learning days that we're going to be on the 5th and 6th are your next 2 Wednesdays.
Okay, good. If there's not any other questions, anything else, Dr. Patel?
No, the last slide just says that we are in orange right now,
Okay,
because we all love the colors.
that's good. That's good.
No problem.
All right. The next item on the agenda is 2.5 PropP update. Dr. Patel.
Yes, the board had requested that we give regular updates, which is a good idea, on PropP projects and where we're at. So we have Building Resource Studio, if you guys don't mind coming up here, our architects right now that are working on some of these. They are going to come up, introduce themselves, because some of the board members may not know them. So they're going to give us a little bit of background on them, and then tell us where we're at with all the PropP projects.
Hello, everyone. Is that better? Vertically challenged here. Thank you, Dr. Patel. My name is Carolyn Green. I am a principal with BRS Architects, and I know that most of you are acquainted with Arthur and myself and the BRS firm. But for those of you who don't know us, I would like to give a brief description of who we are, our firm. So I just want to start with Arthur and I formed our firm, Building Resource Studio, that's the BRS, LLP, in 2012. And we each brought 20 years of our own experience with other local firms to this new practice. So each of us, spending those years, we were working almost exclusively in the area of K-12 design and construction. I was licensed as an architect in 1994 and hold licenses in Missouri and Illinois. We are registered as an LLP partnership in the state of Missouri, and our office is in Richmond Heights. We are married, and we have 2 school-age children, teenagers really, at the Maplewood Richmond Heights School District. We have worked in school design all of our careers, and we love doing this work. We've been in business now for 8 years, and we bring with us many previous years of experience in K-12 bond issue projects, both small and large. So this is what we do. We are a traditional architecture firm providing traditional architectural services. We have a staff of 7 architects, 5 in-house, and 2 contract. We have the ability to scale up or down given the project load that we have. We are working principals. We manage our projects and lead the design and production operations. We have 3 licensed architects on our staff, and most of us have worked together as a team for many years. Part of our story is that through these years in the profession, we've gained a solid reputation with school districts and local contractors. This is for expertise in the industry, commitment to complete and successful project outcomes, and a fair and reasonable management style. We most often get our business through repeat clients and word of mouth. School districts trust us to represent their interests, and we are proud of the working relationships we've developed with school districts through the years. And we are happy to be working with Fox School District right now. We have a unique strength, and that is in the knowledge of managing public school district projects. We, the architects, not only produce the drawings and the specifications, but we are the ones who will ultimately manage the budget, the bidding processes, and the administration of the construction contracts.
Carolyn,
Sorry.
I'm sorry to interrupt, but I thought that this was just going to be an update. We do have all of your information.
Okay.
And I just want to kind of stay on point if we could. I don't mean to interrupt or...
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. We were just asked to give a little background about our
Okay.
firm, so, and I was just about to wrap it up, so.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, and Arthur will now give the update on PropP projects.
Good evening. I'll be brief. For all the PropP and first-year capital improvements projects, we're continuing field work. We're preparing new drawing backgrounds, investigating existing conditions, scanning existing record drawings, and developing preliminary designs. We're meeting with John Stewart, Scott Barbagallo, and other district staff in a continuing series of weekly meetings to confirm scope and preliminary cost estimates and to review the design progress. Engagement meetings with school principals and with staff are proceeding, and those are generally on Wednesdays just due to the current conditions. For both the Antonia Elementary addition and renovation project as well as Merrimack Heights addition and renovation project, the geotechnical exploration work is complete and the soil reports have been issued for both those projects. Boundary and topographic survey work is proceeding. Field utility locations have occurred. The title reports are complete and this information is all being incorporated into the survey presently. Flow tests for the site water lines at each of those sites has been performed. For both projects, the preliminary site plan is tentatively scheduled to be submitted to Jefferson County the week of October 26th. Specifically for Antonia Elementary, the addition and renovation, a meeting with school administration occurred on September 2nd, and an engagement meeting for school staff occurred on October 7th. We've revised the schematic drawings based on those meetings and also on continuing input from the school and from district administration. The schematic design documents are attached to this report. For Merrimack Heights, the addition and renovations there, meetings with the school administration occurred on September 2nd and September 16th. We've refined the schematic design drawings based on those meetings and also on continued input from the school and from district administration. An engagement meeting for school staff is tentatively scheduled for later in October, and the schematic design documents will be submitted after that meeting. For the phase 1 at Fox High, which is the site demolition and utilities project, we continue to analyze existing conditions and develop a strategy for existing building demolition, new and related to the new addition.
I think we lost us.
Let me grab you, Jim. Okay. Stand by. I could go on. Do you want me to go on?
You're good, I think, now.
You get your handheld mic. I think they worry about the people at home as much as the people who are here.
Understood. Well, I'm generally softer spoken, so I'll no problem. So I'll restate that. For Fox High Phase 1, which is site demolition and utilities, we continue to analyze existing conditions and develop the strategy for existing building demolition that's immediately related to the new addition, which is Phase 2. We're working with local utilities as the preliminary design proceeds. For the Fox High Phase 2 work, which is the addition, very similar to Antonia and Merrimack Heights, the boundary and topographic survey work is proceeding. Field utility locations have occurred. Title report's complete, and that information is all being incorporated into the survey presently. The flow test for the site water lines has been performed. We are beginning the code review of the existing building and preparing for school engagement meetings starting in November. For Segment Middle, the addition there, first meeting with the school administration occurred on September 30th. We're developing preliminary layouts to engage the land surveyor and to prepare the preliminary site plan submittal. For flooring replacement, paving work, and kitchen equipment, the scope of work has been identified, budgeted, and prioritized. We've met twice with the Food and Nutrition Department as we develop preliminary design solutions for their facilities. For the secured entrances, we've developed preliminary designs for all locations. We've established exterior camera locations and access control expansion in consultation with facilities and technology departments. Preliminary cost estimates are complete. We're continuing a series of weekly meetings with the school principals to confirm the scope of work and review those designs. For the science labs, field documentation of existing science lab conditions is complete and budgets have been established. We're meeting with school principals to confirm the scope of that work. For the playgrounds, we've completed the photo surveys and field documentation of existing playground conditions, and the budgets have been established. We're continuing also in a series of meetings with school principals to confirm that scope of work. Lastly, for capital improvement, roofing and HVAC projects, the first year, we've confirmed the scope of work and the construction budget, and construction documents are underway for bidding in early 2021. These projects include the Seckman High School Phase 4 and Fox Elementary Phase 2. All of these processes are included in the attached design milestone schedule as well. Any questions?
Does anybody have any questions?
I just have one question. Who authorized you to proceed with this work on these projects?
We met with Nisha and John in June for preliminary meetings. We were asked to proceed, as we have in the past, with past projects based on an extension of our current agreement.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else have any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all the information. It's good to have that. The next item on the agenda is 3.1, architect discussion and RFQ process. Following the discussion regarding the architect contract previously, the decision was made to have the school's attorney review the request for qualifications, or RFQ, and the contract. The RFQ has a broader scope than the contract with BRS, which was for remodeling the 4 middle schools. The existing contract with BRS does not include any of the PropP projects. So this is what the board needs to consider. Due to the fact that BRS has done some significant work on several of the projects, both in assessment and design, consideration can be given to issuing a new contract so that work can continue to be done in a timely manner. Based on information from the attorney, another approach is to consider going through the RFQ project for the remainder of the PropP projects. BRS and other architectural firms can submit proposals through that process for consideration by the board. This is being presented to the board after review and consultation with our attorney to ensure that we are compliant with both the state statute and the board policy. So what I've done is I've listed out the options on the sheet that you have, and I've attached to that, it's in front of the design work with the architectural information from BRS. I'm going to go through the options, and after talking to John Stewart, he also talked about that it might be wise to consider putting some of the capital improvement projects, thinking about whether to put that with a contract or whether to put that in the RFQ. The capital improvement projects for 2021 have already been put in this year's budget. And John explained to me that most of those projects are nearing completion, the ones in the capital project. So I'm going to go through the list of options, and I might have missed something, so if I did, I'm sure somebody will tell me. One option is to issue a contract to BRS for Antonia Elementary School, or we could issue a contract to BRS for Antonia Elementary School. I said middle, didn't I? I'm sorry. Antonia Elementary and Merrimack Heights Elementary. We could also contract with BRS for all PropP projects, even though that wasn't the attorney's advice. We could add to any of those contracts to complete capital improvement projects as we've budgeted. It's a plan. It's not necessarily that it's definite we're going to do that, because every year you look at the budget. Those could be added to a contract. The other thing that we could do is do an RFQ for all PropP excluding Antonia Elementary School, complete an RFQ for all of PropP excluding Antonia Elementary and Merrimack Heights Elementary, or we could complete an RFQ for all PropP projects. Any of those RFPs, we could also add the capital improvement plans to. So what I'd like to do is so that everybody has a chance to speak, I'd like to start with our officers and then go around and allow each board member an opportunity to speak and or ask questions. So, and then I'll speak last. Judy, if you want to go first, did you have a comment or a question?
I don't have any questions, I don't think. I feel like that they have done a lot of work. And I feel like we should continue a contract with them, specifically for Antonia and for Merrimack, for sure. And the projects that are already completed could be part of that. The things, I mean, you've said, John said they're almost done. Just go ahead and put those in the contract, even though they're already done. Right, but I do feel like that we should probably go through the RFQ process, especially for the Phase 2 things that we haven't really moved on with the Fox and the Seckman Middle School, and any capital projects that might come after this year that may not even have been identified yet, put those in an RFQ also. So I would be for a contract with BSR for Antonia Elementary and Merrimack Elementary, and then maybe put out RFQs for Fox, Seckman, and any upcoming after that projects.
All right. Mr. Grunwald, Bob.
Well, I'm kind of thinking along Judy's line, because I know BRS has done quite a bit of work. I think it's those two projects, Antonia and Merrimack, I think it's imperative that we move along with that, because that's been anticipated for some time. And I agree that on the second group, we need to maybe do a broader request for proposals and that kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Crystal, do you have do you want to comment, or do you have questions?
I guess as a board, contracts are one of our jobs, to make sure that we have oversight and make sure that we go through the bidding process correctly. I appreciate you checking with legal, Vicki, and making sure that we are doing everything that we're supposed to do as a board. I know that BRS has put on quite a bit of work on Antonia and Merrimack, and I'd hate to see those two projects held up because of this. So I guess I will agree with the contract, but I also agree with Judy that we need to go out for an RFQ on everything else.
Okay. Jim?
First of all, did any of you board members authorize the architect to proceed on any of these projects? Okay, it is the exclusive role of the Board of Education to identify these particular services by law. I'm going to read you a quote, and this is from a newspaper article from a school district that went through something like this about 8 years ago. This is from the attorney. But if that public entity hires someone after reviewing proposals and then continues working with that firm when new projects arise without soliciting proposals, that's likely violating the intent of the law. Now, let me tell you who is violating the intent of the law. Not the school administration, the Board of Education.
Okay. But the issue now is we weren't...
Wait a minute, let me finish. You gave everybody else a chance, let me finish.
I just wanted to say we weren't aware, Jim, so...
The truth is, back in June, we had talked to the administration about seeking proposal at a meeting. And my assumption was being that's how we proceeded. Instead, that suggestion was totally ignored, and apparently authorization was given to BSR to continue. BSR didn't have a contract. They did have a contract with us to build some additions back in 2017, but this is a new proposal. When new projects arise without soliciting proposals, that's likely a violation of the intent of the law by the Board of Education. So we've been put in a pretty tough spot here, folks. because we have a responsibility of oversight, and this is one area that we have responsibility for. And let me tell you, communities take this stuff pretty. I can read some other things that actually Susan Goldhammer had mentioned and other attorneys had mentioned relative to this particular case. But there aren't too many people in the St. Louis area that aren't totally aware of this particular case. Now, that being said, we ask BSR to do some extensive things relative to providing design ideas for Antonia Elementary School. And I would say that out of fairness to him, since he put his work on the line, that he should be extended that contract. We should have actually put that contract together about 4 months ago, but we should have, but out of fairness to him, we probably need to do that since he's revealed his work. There are other small projects in the district, additions to entrances and things like that they have done a lot of design work on that stuff already, and it would make sense to go ahead and extend that work to him also. But on Merrimack Heights, Seckman, and Fox, we have an obligation under the law to request proposals for those projects.
Thank you. Carol?
Okay, I'd like to have a couple of clarifications. The work that has been done at Antonia Elementary and Merrimack Heights Elementary, is that work that was approved through PropP?
Yes, that's worked through PropP.
And so if I'm understanding correctly, BRS has done almost, and I have to be a little more understanding, you have done a lot of work at Antonia and some at Merrimack are kind of equal to both buildings? Okay. And then the other question I have, the work that has been done on capital improvements, that's budgeted items, does not have anything to do with PropP.
That's correct.
So we're thinking about two different issues here.
Yes, and the capital projects could be included on the contract, just for clarification.
So actually, when we bring this to a vote, we need two different motions, am I correct?
My suggestion would be to have a vote on the contract first, so then that's clear if there's an offer for a contract, exactly what's being offered, and then after that's done, if there's a vote for the RFQ, specifically what the RFQ is for. That would be my recommendation.
And from what I'm hearing from everyone, whether we think it was done correctly from the beginning or not, we only feel it's fair that BRS be paid for the work that's done. Am I correct on that?
We would be obligated to pay for any work done up to this point, but most of the work has been done, folks, is very preliminary work. Existing conditions, and we own that work. So if another architect is selected to do a job, that work is available to him, so that work is not lost. That work has been done. That preliminary work, we own that because we will pay him for that.
Okay.
So it's not like because he's done that work, it's not feasible for a different architect to have a shot at doing that particular job.
Okay. I just wanted to be sure that the work that he's done is separate from PropP and capital improvements.
Those are two different things.
jobs.
That's
Okay.
why you have
All
the
right,
list
thank you.
attached with the capital improvements. All right. Thank you, Michelle. Your turn.
Okay. I can imagine that there are some parents that are watching this saying, oh my goodness, this whole thing started with Prop S, like in 2017. So in 2017, isn't that when we did the RFQ to find
No.
BRS?
No.
In my understanding, Nisha, wasn't it in 2016 or 17 that they did the RFQ?
We did the RFQ in 2016, I believe.
And that was for the building of additions at Ridgewood, I think, to accommodate the increased population. It had nothing to do with Prop S.
The RFQ is broader in scope than the contract. The contract was just for the renovations at the middle school. The RFQ was much broader. Both the MSBA attorney and our own attorney, Tuith Kinney, said that the RFQ scope was broader, and I'm thinking that that was done in the hope that Prop S would pass. I don't know.
We never
I wasn't on the
interviewed,
board.
we never interviewed architects for Prop S, ever.
But the
Well, we weren't on the, I mean,
the
we
We've
weren't
had
on the
one
board.
contract with BRS, and that was for the building of the additions at Ridgewood and at Seckman. Prop S, we never hired an architect.
Jim,
I was on the board then. Trust me, we did not
Okay,
hire an architect.
can you let me talk now?
Sure,
You
go
had
ahead.
your time. Okay.
This is a serious matter. This is
this
about
is-
violating the law.
Jim,
This,
please okay, please, Jim, let everybody have a chance to speak. That was my intent by going around, so everyone would have a chance to speak. It's Michelle's turn.
and this is a very serious topic, and I'm new on the board. However, I spent many years sitting in the audience watching all this unfold and supporting it and watching these two, come up and have their conversations with the board and share what they were doing. So I think that how you were talking, I bet you it scared our community thinking that the Fox District did something illegal or bad, which is not the case. Like she said, the RFQ was broad enough where it could handle the Prop S if that would have passed. So,
There was another case that happened in the St. Louis area, and you need to read that case because that is not the way it works, and that ended in disaster, and it ended up with a demand for the school board to resign in that particular situation.
well, right now, I remember reading the.
Let's just,
Could
could we stay on point?
Absolutely.
Please, about the contract and the RFQ.
Absolutely.
I don't want to go through what happened in other districts. I want to stay focused right now
Okay.
on the actual agenda item, which is the contract and the RFQ process. Thank you.
And our attorney said that it would be legal to just award them the contract for continuing with all the PropP development, the construction. So it wouldn't be illegal. They do recommend that we have a RFQ, but it's not something that is illegal. So I wouldn't want the community to think that we were doing something that was illegal because that would have them not trust us, and I wouldn't want that to happen. Okay, so the reason that we want to have an RFQ is it's been past 3 years, which our policy or the guidelines recommend you do an RFQ every 3 years. So I think that the architectural company that has already worked on Antonia Elementary and Merrimack should absolutely continue with what they're doing. And if the board, as a majority, if we want to have a RFQ, then I would be supportive of having that for additional projects. But I think that the Antonia Elementary and Merrimack Heights should continue with this company. And I just wanted to make it so that the community heard a board member say, we're not doing anything wrong, and I just wanted to not scare,
Are you certain we're not doing anything wrong?
According to our lawyer, we're not.
Okay, now it's my turn to talk. If you're done, Michelle.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you. After reviewing the documents that BRS has provided us and getting the updates, I think the fair thing to do would be to offer contract to them for Antonia and Merrimack with the capital projects for this year to clarify that they're doing that projects, and then do an RFQ for the remaining projects. We, as a board, were unaware that they did not have a current contract that covered anything, and so we are correcting that now. And in that manner, we're following the intent of the law. And so we want to make sure that we are honoring our commitment, in my opinion, to the community and making sure we get the PropP projects done in a timely and cost-effective manner. And if, in all fairness to BRS, if they've done that work, they need to be paid. And if some, even though we do own anything that's come out of that, it's very likely that if we would bid those two projects out, another architect may put a different, have a different view of what should be done, and that could incur more costs, which in my opinion could affect the ability to get all the PropP projects done. That's my opinion. So if I could get a motion now?
I just have one more question. Okay, I'd be glad to make the motion that we award the contract to BRS for Antonia Elementary and Merrimack Elementary. My question is, all of the entryways have not been completed. Is that part of the capital?
That's phase two.
Okay,
So if you saw
we're
in the
talking,
design,
okay,
that's
so when
phase
we
two.
say capital improvements, it is the capital improvements that was not part of PropP.
It's on your list. It's
I
the
know,
capital
but I just wanna know how to make
improvements
this
for
motion.
the HVAC and the roofing and those items on the
Okay.
list that have already been approved. They were approved last year for budget out of this year.
Right.
Did you, okay. So did you,
Ms. Hanson, could you have the motion repeated, please?
I didn't make
she
a
didn't
motion
make
yet.
a motion.
Oh, you didn't make a motion?
didn't
I'm
make-
sorry, I thought you said.
I just said that was my, I was just, everybody had a chance to speak, and I wanted to speak my opinion on the matter. That's all I was doing, and then I was asking if anybody was ready to make a motion.
I misunderstood. I thought she made a motion.
So the rest of my question was, the entrances to some of the schools that are getting secure entrances, that is part of PropP.
That's all on the phase two design.
Okay,
They haven't,
so-
they've done some preliminary work, but none of those have been done to the extent that Antonia and Merrimack have. In that information they provided in the board packet, phase two is things that are gonna be started on next year. So they're not at the point, they were just at the preliminary planning phase on the phase two, as I understand it.
Oh, okay,
The
so-
phase one is the things that have really, they've done the design work and the assessment, and they're farther along.
So you're saying that phase two work has already been done,
No, no, I didn't
preliminary work on phase two, right? Is Fox High School phase two?
what I said was, they haven't done major work on phase two. That's work that's not even gonna be started to next year. They've met with people, but they haven't gotten the actual design down. They haven't done as much work on
Okay,
those
you
as
keep
Merrimack
talking
and
about
Antonia.
major work. What is the major work? Do we have mechanical drawings complete? Do we have the structural drawings complete?
For Fox High School, we do not.
No, not for the things on.
Okay, so we really haven't done any major work yet. Most of this work is very preliminary.
What I'm going to do is, for clarification for everybody, you have it in your documents. Phase two work is Fox High Addition, Seckman Middle School, flooring and paving and kitchen equipment, secured access, cameras and control, science labs, playgrounds, roofing, HVAC. The phase one work, which has been done at the assessment and the design work has been done, is that correct? That is
Do you have,
Antonia.
Arthur, do you have drawings for that you can show us?
That was done on Antonia and Merrimack. So,
Vicki, can I
Anyway.
ask a question about phase one again? I think you're leaving off that the demolition of Fox, was in phase one. And if we put that off for RFQ, is that going to,
that is a plan, as I understand it, but that actually hasn't happened yet. They're developing it and they're analyzing. If you looked at the information, it says, BRS team continues to analyze existing conditions and developing strategy for existing building demolition. They're just doing preliminary work on Fox. The things that have the design and assessment completed as Antonia and Merrimack, is as I understand it.
I
So
just
do
wouldn't
we
want
have
that to be
blue-
put off because of this RFQ.
So do we have blueprint drawings and engineer drawings for Antonia and/or Merrimack?
Arthur, do you mind coming up?
Thank you.
We do have schematic level drawings for Antonia Elementary and Merrimack Heights Elementary. And the Antonia Elementary package is included as an attachment to the report, and Merrimack Heights is basically at the same level, just short of the final stakeholder meeting, which needs to occur, and then the submittal is ready.
So if there are any other questions for Arthur, otherwise I would...
Please, I do have one other question. Now, I want you to understand, Arthur, that if we do an RFQ, that doesn't preclude you from participating in that.
Understood.
I mean, that's never been the point. It's just that $40 million is a lot of money in this community, and generally speaking, people expect everyone to have a shot at that if they're in this building business. And you know well as I do that if you don't do that, you can get in some big, big trouble. You know that. It can ruin careers. We need to be very careful about what we're doing.
Okay. Is anybody
Arthur.
ready to make, thank you, Arthur. Is anybody ready to make a motion?
Before you make the motion, can I address a few things as well? Just a couple of points I want to make sure we clarify. I know we're talking about the RFQ that happened in 2016 and what it entailed. The RFQ that happened in 2016 was quoted as saying, in the near term, various facility alterations are needed to accommodate moving 6th grade students to the middle schools. In the longer term, numerous facility needs are anticipated. So that was the RFQ.
Which had nothing to do with Prop S.
Numerous facility needs are anticipated. We knew we would go to the community and request a bond issue or a tax levy or something that was going to require facility improvements to a great magnitude.
But process was not even a twinkle in our eye at that time. Generally speaking, he was given a contract to do those projects to accommodate moving the 6th grade up to the high schools, and for any other projects we needed to get done, including entrances to schools and things like that. Prop S had not even been discussed, and for anybody to think that this was kind of a natural outcome of Prop S, they're being misled. Prop S failed. We ran Prop P. That was a $60 million. That was one project that didn't fail. We didn't have an architect identified at that time. We did a $40 million, no tax increase, Prop P. We finished that, and we essentially said, oh, by the way, that work that you did a long time ago, it had some things, you could do some additional things along the way. I guess we just assumed that that would work, but we know from history in our region, based on other cases, that that is a violation, if not of the law, the intent of the law.
But we also know that school districts use architect firms for several years without changing them, including us. We have used the same architect previously, year after year for different projects, multiple projects.
And you can do that for very small projects. But when you have a major bond issue that's passed, you don't roll those projects automatically over to that architect that you've used over the years to take care of smaller projects.
Okay. I've asked if anybody is ready to make a motion. I'd like to call for a motion on the architect contract first.
Could I just say one thing or ask one more question of you, Mrs. Hanson?
I guess we can make this as complicated as you want. That's fine. That's fine.
We were advised by our attorney to issue a new contract pertaining to these projects. Am I right?
We were advised that we could issue a new contract to BRS and determine which portions of the projects we wanted to give them, but they also said it would be prudent to do a RFQ. That's why, in my opinion, when I spoke, I think it's prudent to issue them a contract for the work that they've done, because we need to pay them for the work they've been done. That's ethical and fair, and because then we can make sure those projects get done in a timely manner. do an RFQ for the other projects. They are welcome to put in along with other architectural firms, and after those are received, a determination can be made. But my concern, my personal concern, this is me, I'm speaking only for me, okay? I am not the full board. My personal concern is if we don't issue a contract for that, for those projects, we need to pay them for the work they've done. And it's better for them to go ahead and proceed than to have that go out and then possibly have to spend money on the same projects again. We have a limited amount of supply of money available to us. We have lots of projects. I want to make sure, in my opinion, that we keep our commitment to the community to get all the projects that we had proposed done. And I do recall, I know John is sick, so if I'm remembering correctly, and my memory could be wrong, he advised, because there's a timeline once the bonds are issued, separating the bonds into two different parts. So one, the call for bonds would be at one point, and you'd have 3 years to get it done, and then the call for bonds, it'd be divided up. So,
Have any bonds been issued yet?
not yet.
Okay, so we got 3 years. I can tell you we don't have one project out there that can't be done in 3 years. Matter of fact, most architects could look at this next month and in 22 months have the projects completed. I've done this before many, many times.
Thank you, Jim. Does anybody else have any other comments? Are we ready for a motion? Is anybody ready to make a motion?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and make a motion that we issue a contract to BRS for Antonia Elementary School and Merrimack Heights Elementary School and the projects that were capital improvements that have already been completed or that are in the middle of being completed, and that, okay, so is that what you want?
That would be sufficient. What you're saying is the capital improvement projects for the 2021 school year,
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Okay. Can I get a second, please?
I second it.
No more discussion?
Well, I think we've kind of discussed
Well,
it, Jim.
I just want to make sure the board understands now that none of this had to do with the original contract had nothing to do with process, because you're basing your decision on the fact that somehow, some way, he has been given preliminary authority to do this based on the work that he did on Prop S, which never existed. I just want you to understand you're making a decision based on
So
that.
I think everybody
as far as whether we
understands,
pay
Jim.
him or not, he's done the work. We're going to pay him. I can tell you that.
I think everybody understands, Jim. You've made your point very clear. So there's a motion on the floor. I've got a second. Can I get a vote? All in favor, please. Say aye.
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 No.
Opposed? Thank you. The next order would be to get a motion for an RFQ for the remaining PropP projects. Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
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 All right. Moving on.
We just broke the law.
The next item of business is the 3.2 proposed 21-22 Board of Education calendar, and I believe you have the corrected one in front of you tonight. It aligns with the draft calendar for next year.
Do we have it in here?
It's separate.
Oh, here it is. Okay.
So it should be separate. Carol, do you see it there? Everybody got it? Okay, so I think that what happened on this, Jamie, do you want to explain? I think she changed around to accommodate spring break and Christmas break. Is that correct?
That's correct. I made an error taking on this role. I did not double check the tentative calendar for the new school year. So I just scheduled it based off of what we have done in the past. And it was brought to my attention that it could potentially fall during spring break as well as winter break. So I made those adjustments on the calendar.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve this calendar?
So moved.
Second.
Oh, excuse
Question.
me.
Do we always say reserve date? I mean, I would really like to see 2 meetings scheduled for every month. And if we don't need it, that we could, eliminate it. But we kind of go through this the first of the month, and we always have meetings that last till 9 o'clock when we didn't think we had enough business. And I think we do have enough business that we really should, instead of saying reserve date if needed, it just ought to be scheduled as a regular meeting on those days. That's just what I think.
Judy, should it be regular meeting or should it be workshop?
Either one. I just think we should be
Is there a difference?
planning to meet.
Is the difference that significant?
Right.
I don't know. I'm asking. I'm
Well,
not a,
that's what I want to know, because,
I do believe that our regular, by policy, our regular meeting is held the 3rd Tuesday of every month.
right.
We wanted to put those in as workshops.
Mhm.
okay. So a workshop has a different
Could a
connotation.
workshop be included as a regular meeting if we called it a workshop?
Call it a workshop, right.
Yes.
So,
You can still take care of business at a regular, at a
Okay.
workshop meeting.
Well,
right?
then that's probably what I would like to do. I would like to see that on there.
okay, so, you want to amend your motion?
Do you need to change the motion? Is that okay? And I lost her place. Did we vote already?
Okay.
Well, somebody made the motion,
Jim
so-
made a motion,
I'll amend the motion to include your adjustments.
And then you
and
second.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed. The next item is advanced placement exam fees reimbursement. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
We're asking the board to approve the reimbursement of AP exam fees for students who earned a qualifying score for a total of $43,006 from the assessment budget.
Okay, and this is the students that took it.
These are for the students who took the AP exams in May of 2020
Okay.
and earned a score of 3, 4, or 5
Okay.
on the exam.
And it's in this year's budget, right?
And it's in this year's budget.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Motion passed. Oh, discussion. I'm sorry, Jim.
We've had a practice of preliminarily charging all students for this AP test, correct?
We ask them to pay for the AP test when they elect to take it, yes.
However, those people that pass the test, they get reimbursed so they get essentially a reward for passing the test. Is that correct?
That is true.
Yes. I don't know. I find there's something that I find that's just not right about that. We had 792 kids, 800 kids take it. What, about half of those kids passed it?
Yes,
So half of those kids were kind of stuck with the bill.
that's true.
And this is for a test that they take on one day at the end of the year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know, folks. If we're going to continue this process, and I know we're not going to do it for next year, but there's something in my gut that makes me feel that this kind of unfair to families. If the test is that important, we ought to pay for it for every kid. And if it's not that important, then those kids that want to take it for college credit can take it and then have to pay for it. It seems like we had a lot of kids that are encouraged to take the AP test. And I feel that probably many of those kids are not really probably in a position to have a good shot at passing that test. And then those kids get charged for it. There's something about that that just doesn't seem right. And so it's just a thought.
I have a question about that. So do their parents pay for the AP class and then they're charged a fee, or is that fee?
There's no fee to take the AP class.
Say that, I'm sorry, say that again.
Excuse me. There's no fee to take the AP class. There's just a fee to take an exam.
Test. Okay.
There is a fee to take a dual credit class, but then there isn't a requirement to pass an individual exam on an individual day in order to earn college credit for a dual credit class. They're two different functions.
Declan, is this tied to MSAP?
We earn points both for students who take dual credit classes, or kids who enroll in AP classes, and kids who earn qualifying scores on AP tests. So, yes, in all three ways, it's part of the APR.
And
So
this is for this past year, so basically it's not included. There isn't a plan to reimburse at all for next year. If people choose to take the test next year, there's not going to be reimbursement.
So do the kids that take the AP class and they take the test, are they getting credit for that for college?
So yes, many universities award students college credits for qualifying for taking an AP
Well,
exam. and
I
earning
wrote many
qualifying
checks
score.
for that stuff when my kids, but I thought I was paying for a college credit. That's what, I didn't realize that, I didn't know they took a separate test. So my other question is, those kids who didn't pass the test don't get credit. Is that
That's true.
correct?
Yes.
Wow.
So that's why we have two different courses. If it's a dual credit course, if you pass the class with a C or better, then you earn college credit for that. And if you take an AP class, if you pass the test with the 3, 4, or 5, then some colleges award credit for that. And each of those purposes serve different functions. That kids who really want to distinguish themselves as an elite student want to pass the AP exam and have a high qualifying score on the exam, and kids who really want to get college credits taken care of while they're still in high school want to take those dual credit classes. If I was going to be an engineer and knew that I had to take English composition class as a distribution requirement when I'm in college, I might want to take dual credit English class while I'm in high school,
Right.
so that I don't have to do that in college. And they serve two quite different functions.
Am I understanding, though, on this information, we're not going to be doing this anymore?
We are not going to be doing this next year. We've looked for the students who take the test this in May of 2021. The students who are enrolled in those classes now have already been informed that we won't be able to reimburse for qualifying scores.
And if it comes up again and we get lots of money, then we may reimburse later.
Yes, and it also...
But this is for 2021, we would not be doing that.
That's right. And
Thank you.
It also puts us in the position now to apply for grants that are provided to provide AP exam funds for students who are at need. When we had a reimbursement program, we couldn't supplant that program with another for these grants. But there's the opportunity now to apply for grants where we might be able to reimburse for students who are at need with grant funding. Or we can look at, if it fits in the budget, we can bring it to the school board to ask for the board's opinion about how we would like to structure the reimbursement process for students.
So could it be that, too, we went out in March, and these students were left virtual. So the students that didn't pass it, it could really be because they weren't in a classroom with teachers, is that correct? And so the AP scores, because the mom of the freshman has a senior that I was talking with, and that senior's taking, I think, 4 or 5 AP classes right now. And she was saying that she doesn't feel, the daughter that's the senior doesn't feel confident enough to sign up to take the test and pay for them, that she would pass them. And so, even though they're willing, even though we haven't voted to reimburse past tests, or we're not, whatever, they would, some of these students who are willing to do that, they're having a really hard time right now because of virtual learning. And we're talking about classes I never took that are very difficult, very
Right, they're
difficult.
big.
And so we can assume that a lot of the kids didn't pass them maybe because of COVID and not being in a classroom. Could
So
that?
the exams were quite different last year also than they usually are. So the AP, the college board that provides the AP exam changed the exams themselves because of the national conditions. But our pass rate is about the same as it was in prior years. But the exams are, it's very hard to determine why, because the exams were mostly one question essay exams. Whereas in the past they've been multiple formats, several sections to the exam, but the College Board changed them because of the conditions of last year.
Okay. So we have a motion and a second on the floor. Can we, okay.
One other question.
Sir.
On our APR, our annual performance report, do we get credit for kids who sign up for AP classes?
Yes, we get credit for students who enroll in AP classes.
Okay, so the more kids we have enroll in AP classes,
We get credit. We get the same.
that helps our performance report, correct?
It does, yes.
So then, I guess what concerns me is that we encourage kids to take these classes that may have a hard time ever passing that test, so we can look better on our annual performance report.
That would be a concern if that's what was really happening. But we get credit for students who enroll in dual credit classes, and we also get credits for students who enroll in career and technical education classes. And we get bonus points for kids who then earn qualifying scores on exams. So it is very important that we find the right placing for all students.
My point is this. If we're going to encourage kids to enroll in classes that involves a test that they're going to have a very hard time passing in many cases, and then we charge them because they don't pass it, something morally is incorrect about that. And what I'm saying to the board is, if we're going to encourage kids in these classes, and we have a lot of kids in AP classes now, that's 700, if we're going to encourage them to do it, when maybe they don't really have the skill set to really have that much success with it, obviously about half of them don't, then at least we ought to pay for their test.
And
Well, maybe that's something we can consider for later, but
And-
right now, the issue before us is whether to approve the reimbursement as it is presented.
But
So
I think
that's
that morally and ethically, it is our responsibility to make sure that we are challenging our kids to the most capability that they can, and we don't put a ceiling on them. I think that we can say every kid can be successful in an AP course. That is our job, to make sure that they are successful. And for us to say, well, maybe you don't have the skill set or you can't do it, that I feel like we absolutely can get all of our kids to take, even if it's an AP art class. Why wouldn't we challenge them?
Nisha,
And it's
I've
not
heard
about the
teachers
points.
complain that kids are forced into those classes that really aren't prepared for that level of instruction, and especially in mathematics, and the effect is that it's almost dumbing down the entire class, because they're having to teach kids that don't have the skill set to really tackle an advanced placement test.
If there's no more discussion, we have a motion and a second on the floor. All in favor for the reimbursement on the AP tests? Yes.
Yes.
Opposed, none. Next item, 3.4 Perkins Consortium Agreement with Jefferson College. Mr. Fitzpatrick.
We're asking the school board to approve the 2020-21 Perkins Consortium Agreement with Jefferson College Area Technical School. This concerns the allocation of the federal Carl Perkins Career and Technical Education funds, and 100% of these funds will be applied as a credit for tuition for students enrolled in ATS.
Okay.
I
Can I
make
get
a
a
motion?
motion, or is there
Motion.
any questions? Discussion? All in favor?
Yes.
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 Abstain. I'm on the college board, so therefore I cannot vote on this.
Thank you.
5.1.
4.1.
Oh, I'm sorry, I flipped too many pages. Oh, my goodness, how did I do that? Oh. Yes, I flipped a page. Sorry. Financial report. Dr. Gilman.
All right, so looking at the graph here, revenues and expenditures are trending in a normal fashion. We are a quarter of the way through the fiscal year, and total revenues are at 12.15% of budget, and total expenditures are at 16.37% of the budget. For the operating funds only, revenues are at 13.06% of the budget, and expenditures are at 13.84% of the budget. If you look at the bar graph, operating fund balances are just under 11.1 million. If I do the math in my head real quick, I think that is 9.15% of budgeted operating expenditures. And if I remember back to last year, I think we're approximately $135,000 better than a year ago. If you have any questions, you can ask Dr. Cardona.
We could always call Mr. Stewart.
Here, it looks like we're a little ahead of last year at this time.
Yeah, I think about $135,000 ahead, yes.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thank you. The next item is the list of professional services agreement. Is that
Yes, the board requested that we provide a list of all of our vendors that we have in the district, what we service them for, the contract start date and the end date, and then when the board approved them, and then any specific notes. So we did attach this document that we've put together for you guys to look through. The process is John Stewart sat down with the finance department, and what they've decided is that we're going to send communication out to the department heads or any cabinet member that oversees this contract 6 months prior to the end of the contract date so that they're aware of it, and that gives us enough time to do an actual bid process if needed. And so this is the information that was requested, and it's all out there.
That's good that there's going to be a plan to do it sequentially and keep on track of that. So thank you. Now we're ready for 5.1 payment of bills. And I guess, is that you, Dr. Gillen, or you, Dr. Patel?
We can do this. Motion to approve Group A bills as presented.
Second.
All in favor? Yes. Motion passed. Next item is 5.2, donations to the district. Dr. Patel.
Yes, motion to accept the following donations to the district as presented. $4,000 donation from the Buntings for Seckman High School football. $576 to Antonia Elementary for Midwest Regional Bank. $500 for Antonia Elementary, again from Clorox and Clear the List. Again, Antonia Elementary School, another $500 from James Patterson and the Scholastic Book Club. Seckman Elementary School, $3,432 from Midwest Regional Bank. And Antonia Middle School for $1,000 from Midwest Regional Bank.
Okay.
And I want to thank Midwest Regional Bank for always supporting us with all these grants. Every single year, we have so many schools that apply for this, so thank you to them.
Thank everybody for their donations. Can I get a motion to approve, please?
Motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Next item is second reading and adoption of the policies listed. Dr. Brock.
We are requesting the board's approval for a second reading and adoption of the attached policies. All of these are as presented at their first reading, with the exceptions of DIAA, GBCA, GCD, GCI, GDC, and IC, which have been revised based on input from the board at our last meeting.
All right, can I get a motion, please, to approve these policies?
So the May 31st date was removed from any of those policies that, okay.
Yes, that's correct.
Motion.
Second? Can I get a second, please? All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Okay, next item is a first reading of policies. 6.2, Dr. Brock.
Yes, everybody's favorite, more policies. We are asking that the board accept these policies for a first reading with the intent that they would be brought for a second reading at the November 17th meeting, a month from now.
Okay, so remember, our homework is to look at these policies and see if there's any changes, and if so, or questions, direct them to Dr. Brock so that when we come back for our next board meeting on November 17th, we can consider them for approval. Can I get a motion to accept?
It's this packet right here. It's your second packet.
It's your second.
Packet, or your first packet was.
Approved. That's the first reading. So I need a motion to accept the policies for first reading.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Okay. The next item, 6.3, amendment to collective bargaining agreement with NEA. Dr. Brock.
Based on feedback from the board at our last meeting, I met with the NEA leadership and we did revise our CBA that referred to the transfer procedure. And the May 31st deadline is the change that was made to that.
Okay.
So we're asking the board to approve the amended CBA.
Okay. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion. All
in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Last item, well, not last. Consent agenda 7.2 to 7.5. Dr. Brock.
We are asking the board's approval for all attached stipends, modifications, hires, and separations.
Can I get a motion, please? That was Carol. Anybody have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, favorite part of the meeting. Get a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
All in favor?
Yes.
We need to have a standing person just to do the adjournment every time.